Hi, my name's Del Caraway. I'm a public defender and a criminal trial attorney. I also have ADHD.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to process a tremendous amount of insane information.
But believe it or not, my neurodiversity is kind of my courtroom secret weapon. So a little about myself. I've been a public defender for over a decade. I've handled hundreds of felony cases from investigation all the way to trial. Now, as public defenders, we fight for the marginalized, which means the odds are almost never in our favor. We have to be creative and do a lot with a little. And the truth is, I owe a huge part of who I am as an effective advocate to my ADHD. Now, I'm not saying there aren't challenges to being a lawyer with a neuro-spicy brain, being late to a court appearance because you left your keys in the fridge, or having to file a motion on time with a brain that hates deadlines. It certainly creates a vibe. But the benefits of having a brain that sees the world differently in a system that's set up to see people in very black and white terms, now that's a gift that I never knew could be so powerful. Now, to be fair, I didn't always know that the way that I was ADHD. I mean, the signs were always there. There's an active pool in my office betting what courtroom that I'm going to leave my coffee mug at next. But I didn't actually get diagnosed until about 5 years ago. Now, if you don't remember what you were doing 5 years ago, it's because the answer is not a whole heck of a lot. COVID was tough on a lot of people's mental health, including mine. The anxiety and isolation of lockdown took a toll. It was affecting my work, my family, and everything. So, I finally did what I wish I had done years ago. I talked to someone. And what I found was that once I could identify and understand how my neurodiversity worked, that I wasn't just a disorganized insomniac with a caffeine addiction, that I could harness and use this special brain of mine to become a much better lawyer and a stronger advocate for my clients, many of whom are struggling with the same traits I used to think of as nothing but a curse.
Now, when most people think of ADHD, they think of distraction, disorganization, chaos. And to be fair, yeah, it's all of those things. But it's also the ability to come up with that novel idea at 2 a.m. because your brain won't let it go. It's being able to find that one minor inconsistency that changes an entire case, to look at a problem from a completely different angle. Things that are an incredible advantage in there.
Because here's the thing. People with ADHD aren't actually lazy or careless. Our brains just filter information differently. It's how we separate the important from the noise. So yeah, while we might miss things that most people would just naturally pick up on, like where we parked our car, or whether we forgot to take off the musical Christmas tie that might go off in the middle of court, we also pick up on a lot of things that most people might miss. So let's talk about what's probably my favorite of the ADHD superpowers, the hyperfocus. It is real. When we get focused on an issue, we will spend hours, if not days, on that same issue, going down rabbit hole after rabbit hole until we know every little aspect and every little detail of that issue. We are the reason Wikipedia exists. Now, it's not always pleasant. I have routinely forgotten to eat or sleep when I'm focused on an issue. Imagine getting a phone call from your wife at 10 o'clock at night because you're still in the office because you went down a research rabbit hole and you forgot what time it was. I do not recommend that. But when I'm in a courtroom and I know the facts and the law better than anyone else in that room, that's my ADHD. Now, I practice in New York State, and in New York State, we recently revamped our discovery laws. In 2020, New York finally adopted Khifs Law, which was named after Khalif Browder, who spent years in prison and lost his life tragically because he did not have access to the evidence, or in his case, the lack of evidence, against him. Now, we won't go into any of that today, but I strongly encourage you to research Khifs Law. Fast forward to today. We finally have access to all of this evidence that we have never seen before. For the first time, the person who got to decide what was useful evidence for someone's defense was the person actually conducting that defense. And for an attorney whose brain thrives on information gathering and puzzle solving, that was a goldmine for me. Now, a perfect real-life example of this is from a few years ago when body cam footage was relatively new. I would spend hours just going over the footage, matching it with the police reports, building a timeline. And when I was reviewing all of that evidence to get ready for a hearing, I found a small little file buried in all the evidence called a CSV file. Now, I didn't know what a CSV file was at the time, but when I opened it, I found something that looked like this. It was a bunch of latitude, longitude, and timestamps. I'm not even sure the prosecutor knew what was there. It was a documented timeline of everywhere that officer had been, including a 2-hour gap of time that wasn't present in any of the other evidence. And because I was able to pinpoint exactly where that officer was, and more importantly, where he wasn't, I was able to unravel all of the evidence that the prosecutor was using against my client, all from a tiny, insignificant file that most people would have, and probably did, overlook. And I can think of countless examples just like that, where my brain was able to make a connection that no one else saw. A drug recognition officer's rolling log showing that he was not as accurate as he said he was. Things that would have easily been written off as trivial or unimportant, that my ADHD brain was able to pick up on. Now look, it's not always great. There are obviously challenges to having ADHD. Forgotten appointments, missed deadlines, forgetting to call people back, forgetting half of your file on a desk. These things are hard and frustrating for us and those around us. I am not saying that there aren't struggles or that we don't need to work on ourselves daily. I've had to work hard and come up with strategies and work with my brain, and I still do not get it right. But that empathy of knowing what it feels like to let those around us down, to be misunderstood, to be underestimated. I am a better advocate because of my ADHD, because I can meet my clients where they are. So next time you see that lawyer in court who shows up late and doesn't have a pen, or pulls a disheveled mess of files out of his bag, just remember, he may be an ADHD superhero in disguise. So if you or anyone else you know has ADHD, just remember, there is nothing wrong with you. You are not alone. And with great power comes great responsibility. Thanks for listening, and if this video resonates with you, please like and share. And if you're a professional with ADHD, please feel free to leave your story down in the messages. I'd love to read them. For the defense, I'm Caraway.